Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in full swing with the woo-wah content as we head towards the release of Mr. Luuk Herson. And of course, alongside his full kit reveal, his combat showcase, and all of that goodness, we're gonna have news regarding his signature weapon. And a lot of you are probably asking questions about his signature weapon if you're somebody that's planning on pulling him, or maybe you're not planning on pulling him and you just want to know how it works. And the goal for us today is to define how good of a weapon this is, whether or not it's actually useful on your account, and well, whether or not there are better or more affordable options that you can use if you're trying to gear Luuk. Because weapons can be a bit of an expense in this game. Some could even say, right, they're similar in cost to a character, depending on whether or not you're on a 50-50. So that's what we're going to be diving into. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. But before we begin, if you're looking to pick up Luuk or his weapon with some lunite and want to save some cash, LD Shop is the perfect way to do that, and I'll tell you why. LD Shop gives you access to huge discounts on virtually everything you can buy in tons of games. For now, let's focus on woo-wah. The monthly pass, which is usually $5, is much less on ldshop.gg, a great deal. To use this discount, simply select the item, click top up, and submit your payment. Then you'll select self top up. For a limited time, you'll get an additional discount when using this method. After viewing the instructions video, simply enter your Kuro login and password on the browser client. This might seem a bit off, but remember that LD Shop has excellent reviews on Trustpilot. You'll then log in and manually redeem your purchased items in the client. The system will then sign you out and erase your login information. Or you can provide your Kuro login information to LD Shop staff and they can complete your order for you. New users can get a 10% discount and an additional 5% using my sponsored link. First-time top-up bonuses are available as well, and spending $80 or more will get you a VIP membership, which can get you a free 30-day lunite subscription. So try LD Shop today. First things first, when it comes to this weapon, we're going to have to take a look at what it looks like. And I'm going to be honest, it's one of the more aesthetically pleasing weapons in the game. If you've actually seen like some of Luke's like animations and stuff like that, it's basically like perfectly in line when it comes to like the color scheme and all of that. You got that blend of like gold and of course blue, that nice little cyan that he has. And the name is Daybreaker Spine, which is a little bit interesting, but well, it kind of reminds me of like stuff in Renacida, if I'm frankly gonna be honest. Maybe he's from there. Maybe this is a reference to where Luuk is from. Who knows? But we're not going to focus too much on like the story and the stuff like that. We're going to get right on into the base stats first. So this weapon is going to give 587 base attack, which essentially makes it like a standard sort of like 5-star weapon. And then it's also going to have a crit rate of like 24.3%. And so if you're grabbing this for your Luuk, this probably just means, hey, I hope you've already pre-grinded a crit damage Hivatia.
To which stage will life...
Sorry, this guy's a little fucking loud. So that basically just means you can pre-farm for this character, and I hope that during the pre-farming for this character, you got a crit damage Hivatia for the 4 cost, because that's the one that's going to show up on the Rite of Gilded Revelation set, which is the one that he uses because it works perfectly with his kit. Just make sure yours isn't crit rate, otherwise you're going to be giga overcapped, and you're not going to be having a very good time at all. So that's just one of the main things to think about when it comes to this. Otherwise, nothing too crazy to really note when it comes to his overall performance. Well, it's just going to seem relatively typical compared to every other weapon on the roster. Now let's take a look at the weapon skill. And this is where stuff is going to get a little bit interesting, because this weapon actually has some of the strongest passive bonuses in the game. But we're also going to take a look at some of the other offerings that Luuk has in his kit to really highlight where some of the stats might actually be a bit diluted. So first things first, the weapon is going to give a 12% attack bonus just at a baseline. Very, very similar to other weapons that we have, right? And after dealing basic attack damage, the wielder is going to gain a 20% spectro damage bonus for 4 seconds, and each time after the wielder inflicts Toon Strain Shifting on the target, which Luuk does with pretty much every single fucking attack, they gain a 20% basic attack damage amplification. And then their basic attack damage ignores 10% of the target's defense. This might have actually gotten buffed relative to what I've seen in like previous versions of the game. I don't mean like the beta, and I don't mean leaks. I literally mean like what I saw when they were doing like the story playthroughs and like the story fight with the with Buzz Aldrin over there. Let me just double check actually real fast what his weapon looked like on... Oh no, it's been the same the whole time. I just thought this defense ignore was like 7%. Or like 6%. It's actually been 10% the whole time. So, yeah, that's just misremembering from my end based off of what we're seeing over here. But yeah, that's, I guess this means he hasn't really gotten any changes since this playtest. So, Going back to the weapon skill, right? You can look at this amplification built into the weapon and you can think that this is going to be insanely broken, right? But one thing you got to keep in mind when it comes to Luuk is that he's already going to have built-in damage amplification in his kit from his inherent skill, where he actually gains up to 30 fucking percent depending on whether or not he has like lunite in his team. So it might not feel necessarily as powerful to have like just the 20% on his weapon when you already have 30% like on his inherent skill. What this means is that a character that can provide tomb break boost to him to give this damage amplification can actually be stronger than the bonuses that you're getting from his weapon. Does that make sense? Because the more damage amplification you have, the less effective it is. And if you're combining, right, this with this, now you're at 50%. You're literally at 50% damage amp without even having a fucking outro skill. That is like the damage amplification that you get from like a Chu Yan or like a Yuno or like something like that. He's got it just from existing with his weapon, and he's got it just from existing with his inherent. So that's just something to think about. And obviously, losing 20% damage amp over here by not having his weapon isn't the worst deal ever. But on the other hand, that defense ignore is probably going to be the biggest main draw because of all the reasoning that I just gave over here. Because a 20% spectral damage bonus isn't actually that much. 20% amp is great, but not like that much. But this defense ignore, that's not really a stat you can find anywhere else. And that's where I think a lot of the money is going to come from. However, though, right? You might be wondering, Saint, you're talking a lot about these other options. You're talking a lot about what else is available. Surely there's a really, really good free-to-play option that Luuk can use that you're just hiding from us. And that's absolutely entirely correct. Because we've gotten a fuck ton of this thing called standard pulls in the game. I haven't like pulled on the standard banner since like 3.0, and like out of nowhere I have fucking 31 pulls. That means that it's probably very likely that you too will be able to grab any of the standard weapons on here from the new 2.0 series. And guess what the new gauntlet looks like, because Luuk is a gauntlet user. Pulsation Bracer, rank 1. Increase attack by 12% and dealing damage to targets under Toon Strain Interfered, which Luuk does. On every single ability in his fucking kit, he applies Toon Strain Interfered, grants a 6% basic attack damage bonus for 3 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. That means this gives a 24% basic attack damage bonus if Luuk is using it. That's quite a lot. 24% is pretty damn good. And some could say, well, it is literally higher than the damage bonus percent from his weapon itself. Obviously, Luuk, at the cost of 4% damage bonus, he gains the 20% basic attack damage amp, and he gains the 10% defense ignore. But as a free-to-play option, and with it having the same base stats, and obviously if you do want to go this far, you can even go ahead and decide to R5 it. Because it's standard stuff. And you can select the weapon that you want. And like, fuck it, right? Maybe I'll just, just throw a cheeky 10 pull at it. Oh, I got her too? Wait, I don't have her yet. Okay. All right. But yeah, that can just happen, right? And you can eventually decide to just R5 it as well. And I'm going to be real here. This thing at R5 does... Surely I was like on pity, right? Okay, I was like on the pity. I was on pity. I was on pity. That was the cheeky 10 pull. I'm excited for the Boo Ling though. It's good to have a copy of this. And I'm saying over here, at R5 it gives 24% attack, which is a fucking lot. And then it will go up to 36% basic attack damage bonus. So that's another thing you can do as well. And another option, just in case you plan on being like, a bit more like a turtle rather than a rabbit, slow and steady wins the race, right? And you can almost guarantee that you'll be able to R5 that free standard gauntlet that works very well on Luuk instead of actually doing this. Because there's been a bit of a new strategy that some players can have if you're very free-to-play oriented. We all know that this weapon over here, Phasic Homogenizer, is extremely strong for any pistol DPS. Think your Galbrenas, right? Think your Carlottas. This weapon at R5 can outperform their signatures at R1. And guess what? You can get this R5 for free as well. And at R5, it can, again, like I said before, it can outperform the R1 signature. So that's a really cool offering that I think Kuro Games has made to the player base. I think it's pretty damn neat. And there will still be some people saying, and putting in quotes, free. Not really sure why, considering that standard pulls are free. And what else are you going to use your standard pulls on? Like, what else are you using your standard pulls on? Anyways, it's, you say some dumb shit just to get pulled up. Okay, okay, all right. See you in a week, buddy. So naturally, you're probably beginning to see why I think this weapon is so strong. You're probably beginning to see, why I've said that this weapon feels a little bit overtuned. Because they kind of have to, like, make it that way. Because otherwise, it's like, why would anyone have any fucking reason to pull it at all when this one's in the game? And they've dramatically increased, right, the overall power level of standard weapons. I think it's just something we got to recognize. I think it's something that, you know, it's something that makes sense. And hopefully, Luke's not going to feel like the most broken character in the game. But I don't think he will. He looks pretty balanced to me. But I do think he's going to be a fair bit stronger than the Zodis, a fair bit stronger than the Phoebes, simply due to the fact that he's not going to have to quick swap and animation cancel every fucking ability in his kit to do anything on the battlefield. And it does look actually pretty in line with some of the recent releases. I just want to check a couple of the recent signatures that we have. Let's just see what Amos look like. Comparable to Amos, to be honest, because Amos gets no fucking damage bonuses at all. All she gets is, like, defense ignore. Seems comparable to Linnea's, too. Comparable to Chisa's. Honestly, it might be worse than Chu Yan's. I'm not going to lie. Chu Yan's signature looks like low-key one of the strongest ones in the fucking game because it gives, like, a 60% heavy attack damage bonus, then also all these other buffs and shit on the fucking side. Yeah, I'm going to be real. His is cracked. Galbraita's is also a really good comparison. 24% heavy attack amp, 24% echo skill amp, and then 8% defense. Yeah, honestly, it is quite comparable to some of the recent signatures that we've had. Yeah, she gets defense ignore. Yeah, she gets defense ignore. A lot of it, but then not a lot of damage bonuses. He gets a small amount of defense ignore. Amp. Yeah, no, it looks balanced to me. And he's just going to have a good free-to-play option. That's kind of my judgment over here. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about how good this weapon is going to be on other characters. You can use it on... nobody? I was thinking for a second you could potentially think about using this on Zani. But I don't know. This doesn't look like it's going to be that good on her because she doesn't deal basic attacks. She casts basic attacks. Ling Yang doesn't deal spectro damage, so this isn't going to work for him. And Ling Yang can't inflict Toon Strain, so he's not going to get the bonus. So yeah, you don't get the defense ignore, and you don't get the basic attack damage amp unless you can inflict Toon Strain on the target. So yeah, that's not really going to work. Yeah, I'm looking through the rest of the Gauntlet users, and they're not going to benefit from any of his effects at all. Not Yuno, not Zani, not any of these characters, not the Rosia, nobody. So... yeah, not looking too good on the reusability side. Does seem like a specific weapon. But, in the same vein, were you planning on using that weapon on anybody other than Luke when you already have this one? If you cared, right? If you cared about budget, if you cared about sharing, you would just pull this instead. So, kind of like a self-defeating argument doesn't really matter that much to me. However... what if you don't want to spend your standard pulls and you don't want to spend your limited pulls and you just want to use one of your existing fucking gauntlets? Well, let's just see what we have over here on this menu. Moongazer Sigil. How good would this be on Luke? Casting Intro Skill Liberation increases your liberation damage. Luke does not deal liberation damage at all, so this is dog shit on him. It's just a stat stick. Pulsation Bracer, we've already talked about. It's a great fit for him. What about Blazing Justice? Casting basic attack grants the following effects. Dealing damage ignores 8% of the target's defense. I mean, technically, you would just completely ignore the Spectrofrazzle damage amp. I mean, it could work. I don't see it being, like, awful dog shit. I mean, if you just don't care about this effect, maybe. Yeah. Luke doesn't deal Spectrofrazzle damage, though, so I mean, at least you get 8% defense ignore, so maybe it's something. Tragic comedy. This is a tragic comedy because this signature is so fucking bad. It's unbelievable. Verity's Handle. If you just want the 12% attack and the crit, but like literally Pulsation Bracer is better than this, so I don't recommend it. And then Abyss Surges. I mean, it's not the worst thing ever because Luuk literally does this, but I think it's just straight up worse than Pulsation Bracer because Pulsation Bracer has crit. It's functional. It's like if you have it, you could use it, but its stats are really bad, but the skill effect is not bad. But just recognize you really would just prefer this one instead. Now, what about some of the 4 stars? No. No, 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 no. No, no, no. 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 Just use this shit. Just use this. Because you have enough standard pulls from the start of 3.0 to whatever. Just save up for this too, if you're looking for an affordable option. Nothing else is worth it here, boys. Nothing else is worth it here. Even if you have existing ones, just pull this shit instead or just get a Sig. But at this point, it's like, I can't really complain about that. That's not really that bad. There's nothing too wrong with it because, well, let's just be entirely real here. It's very easy to get standard weapons in this game. So that's going to be my take. That's going to be my advice when it comes to other alternatives. Just get the new standard one and you're pretty much fucking good. Now, for upgrading, just as like a final thing, it's going to use all the new materials. So make sure you pre-far for this and don't do the wrong forgery challenges if you're trying to level this motherfucker up. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this one. It's, we really did try to, like, explore. This was more of, like, a balancing discussion around this weapon to see if it was going to be, like, Giga broken or something. I do think Luuk is going to be a very strong character. Might actually be the strongest spectral DPS in the game on release. He's going to have free-to-play options. He doesn't look like he's tied to, like, specific teams. Has a good free-to-play teammate in Sanhua. And might actually be the best free-to-play unit in the game. If I'm going to be real with you. Like, he is actually a must-pull. He's actually a must-pull if you're a free-to-play, starting the game new, and you don't have Zana, you don't have Jinsei, you don't have any Spectro DPSs, because have you seen anyone that can get results cheaper than this? Just go Verena, Sanhua, Luuk, and then get the standard weapon for him, and then go cook some shit. It is what it is. I think it'll be good. But, yeah, that's my recommendation. Pull this if you want. It's gonna be strong, but know that he's gonna function just fine without it. Let me know what you all thought about this one. Peace out.